Now, 4 years ago at the APCAC annual meeting in Singapore, we decided that as we were going to have a new administration come in, we were going to issue a report to the incoming administration and the incoming Congress so that they could hear from us directly what are the key issues that are facing us in doing business in Asia Pacific. Since the launch of that report in 2009, we have done one every year ever since. And every 4 years, this report gets to be even more critical because we have a lot of new officials coming in. So even though we have the President in his second term, we have a new Secretary of State, we will soon have a new Secretary of Commerce, we will have a new ambassador in charge of USTR. So these reports become more critical in election years than otherwise. And so what we've done is, under the lead of Tom Clark, and I'll turn over the session to him in a moment, under the lead of Tom Clark, we sent out a draft of this report to every AmCham in Asia Pacific a month ago. So we've wanted to give everybody the opportunity to get their input into the APCAC team so that we could hit the ground running when we came to the annual meeting today. If you didn't get this report before you came here, and you want to see it, you really need to go back to your ED or go back to your chairman and let him know that you want to get this type of information. So what we do now is we had this set up. Tom and I worked very closely with Andrea and her team in developing the agenda for APCAC. As I said when we started yesterday morning, that this was very well designed so that we could have every panel discuss and learn from each other so that we could incorporate it into this report, and then that is what we're going to have done today. So Tom's going to walk through the dynamics, the process for how we're going to finalize this report, and then how this report is going to get to the key leadership on the Hill and in the executive branch. Tom?
Steve, thank you very much, and thank all of you for your participation. I know this panel is the last one coming before you in our greatly anticipated gala dinner tonight, so we really want to make it the high point, and I think it will be because it is simply the summation of all that has gone on at this conference, which has been really terrific in terms of just the thought leadership and the discussion that we've seen here. And it's really, you know, they say garbage in, garbage out. I think here it's great stuff in, great stuff out, and we're going to make sure that message gets carried to the halls of Washington and to all the capitals in Asia. So let me just tell you a little bit about the process, a little bit about the substance of the report, and then I'm going to turn it over to the real stars who are the representatives of our panel who are going to be giving the takeaways, okay? They're not going to give a whole summation of everything that was said, but really they're going to try to refine it, right, guys? They're going to refine it to 3 to 5 minutes of here are the key takeaways that we want to make sure get into this policy paper from each of the areas that we've covered, all right? Now, Steve has shown you the document. First of all, don't panic. If you get the document and you see, oh my gosh, there's a critical issue to our sector, to our country, it's not in there, don't worry. There's going to be time to get it in. The process here has been, we circulated this a month ago. We've gotten some input from some of the chambers so far. It's going to be reflected. But one of the key remaining inputs is exactly what's gone on over the last 2 days here. This discussion, which has included, you know, energy and environment, health care, innovation, I mean, so many topics that are critical. We are going to make sure that those are incorporated in that report. That report is going to be vetted by all the chambers another time. I know a number of you chambers have your own sort of internal governance mechanisms for, you know, how do official statements get approved. We're going to give you time to get over that. But then this is going to be put into a document which is going to be printed up. There is going to be an executive summary that we're going to develop for the document. And this is going to become basically the cornerstone advocacy document that we use when we go on June 9th to 12th to Washington, D.C. and meet with key members of the Obama administration and with leaders on Capitol Hill. Now, you know, we know who our audiences are. And we know that not every member of Congress is going to go through a very substantive, very meaty report, and that's why we're going to do an executive summary of this. But we are going to be meeting in addition with some of the lead staffers in the trade-related committees, both minority and majority on the Hill, and we're going to be meeting, of course, with people in state, USTR, Commerce, Treasury departments during a whole day that we have with administration people on the first day of the door knock. So, you know, we will have this document sent to the right people. And the best part, I think, is that don't think that this is all about 3 days in Washington in June, because one of the things that we have done over the last couple of years is to really transform what we do during the year so that, yes, the door knock is critical, but it's not just a one-shot thing. It's really a process that we're making a continuity of engagement over the course of the year. And together with BGR, a firm that we've retained to be our regular Washington presence, we're making sure that we don't just go to Washington, say our piece, and have it get forgotten, but that we're following up with congressmen, with people in administration, reminding them of what's happening on the front lines in Asia, and reminding them that these issues that we have in the report, you know, need to be worked on, whether it's with U.S. government dealing with U.S. policy, for example, on tax and innovation issues like we've heard, or whether it's having the U.S. government use its good offices with governments here in the region. Because, of course, a lot of the decisions that affect us are made not in Washington, but in local capitals around Asia. And Washington, of course, has a role to play in trying to drive a process of opening markets, reformulating policy in a way that drives opportunities for U.S. business and for interregional trade. So we're going to be taking that message and making sure that, that U.S. stakeholders continue to engage with the region. So it'll be an ongoing process, and we'll be following up. Now, what I'd like to do you know, before I go in and summarize the report, is really to turn it over to our leaders that we have from the panel discussions here, and they're going to summarize their panels. Then I'm going to, at the end, come up, just kind of give a summary of their takeaways. There is, by the way, one section in the report that may not have been touched on in the panels here, and that is financial services sectors. Obviously, you know, financial services is one sector that, you know, is very important. You know, services are a big part of U.S. exports to the region. We think it's an area where a lot of U.S. companies have competitive advantages, and there is a section in the report on that. It focuses a lot on opening markets for U.S. opportunities to invest in financial services. It talks a lot about making sure that, you know, impediments to cross-border data and capital flows, which are important for services industries, are addressed, and those barriers come down, and we create more of a interregional open market, which will benefit U.S. companies. So those items will be in here. And I'll just be very candid and say that, you know, the panel discussions are going to be supplemented by other inputs we've had from the chambers. But what we've heard over the last couple of days have been very innovative and very important. And so what I'd like to do now is turn it over to our very distinguished representatives of each of the panels to give us a 3 to 5 minute takeaway. And I'd like to turn first, I guess, if it's all right, to Mr. Kenny Jang, who's going to give us a report out on the very interesting green panel that he led. Thank you, Kenny.
Good afternoon. First of all, I think it's a great honor to be here as the moderator of the first section, which is the green section. So before I share our key messages, I would like to appreciate 3 teams or groups. First one is Andrew and Ellen's great leadership for organizing such a prosperous meeting. Especially for me, I have learned a lot from the process and overall preparedness, and certainly, yeah, I will bring all the insights I have learned back to our regional and global leadership within DuPont. I think second thing I would like to appreciate is our panelists from the green section, including Peter Lee. Peter Lee is still here, right? Yes. From Shanghai, China, GE, and Karen Guo from Dow Chemical. And this one is In Zhao Guo from architecture. Certainly, the third group I would like to appreciate is all your individuals' engagements. So make the green section such a fruitful and very constructive interactions. So based on alignments of our green panelists, I think we foresee the incontinent consumption on the deprecable energy and natural resources will not support a sustainable planet. So with that, we recommend the governments, either from the US or from the AP countries, or even for the hosting government, which is the Taiwanese government, for 3 key messages. First one is to develop the long-term vision, strategy, and sustainability goals to guide the country directives on energy and natural resources conservations. Key message number 2 is to develop the policies with stronger incentives and subsidies to motivate the enterprises for developing innovative solutions on new and renewable energies, and certainly as well as the natural resource conservations by using their prevailing science and technologies to support and drive the country's strategy executions. Key message number 3 is to develop the policies with comprehensive public communication programs for all stakeholders in the country, for strengthening people's understanding in order to change people's mindsets and behaviors on energy efficiency and natural resource conservations in their daily lives. So that's the 3 key messages from a Green Panel discussion. Thank you.
Kenny, you are a model of concision. That was excellent, and you've given us 3 very important messages that we'll make sure to work in. I'm very honored to ask next Ms. Tammy Overby from the U.S. Chamber, an indefatigable supporter of a lot of us out here in the region. She is going to report out on the excellent panel that we had on trade architecture, FTAs in the region, a very important topic. So, Tammy, please.
Thank you. First and foremost, our advice for the administration and Congress regarding trade architecture is stay engaged in Asia at the highest level. As those of you who live in Asia know very well, the world has changed. The world really has shifted to Asia. 20 years ago, the United States was almost everyone in Asia's #1 trade partner. Today, depending on what country you're looking at, we're 3, 4, or 5. While we are selling more in Asia, that's true, our share, our percentage of the pie is reducing. So we have got to do a better job, and we need leadership from our government to help us. Now, China is everyone's #1 trade partner. Also, many global, the other rule we wanted, or the other message we want to deliver is that it's really important to show up. Many global leaders travel with their business community. But for this administration, we have not seen a lot of that. And frankly, from my personal view, it has become the exception, not the rule. So we would like to strongly encourage the administration to meet with AmChams wherever you go. Give the American business community local face. As those of us in Asia know so well, it really is important. And the local governments notice that. They notice when our president arrives without the business community. I was in Jakarta 2 weeks ago and met with the Indonesian business community, and they were emphatic about the fact that every other leader who goes to Indonesia brings a large business delegation. And they were strongly urging us to echo this message back to the White House. I know Lorraine's taking notes, so she got it. We also need to see from the new leadership in the State Department that economic statecraft is going to be their mantra as well. And we know our government wants to double exports, travel with American business, meet with the local AmChams on the ground. These 2 things will help us significantly achieve that goal. Amy, is that good enough? We also must enforce trade agreements. That's another point. My other observation is that for the U.S. government is that We need to have a strategic view of the world economically. I think we already do on security and politically, but on the economic side, it would be very helpful if we looked at the world more strategically, particularly when considering the Asia rebalance. It's our view that the Asia rebalance will be judged a success by two things. If we get the China policy right, because that has dramatic impact on everyone else, and that is a huge task, and I believe there's a very important role our friends here in Taiwan can play there. We hear all over Asia that they want America there. They want us engaged. And looking at U.S.-China policy in its entirety, the global impact is just so important. By the way, I love Dr. Morris Chang's definition of industrial policy, and in particular that it should not, and I believe he used the word emphatically. He said, the governments using industrial policy should not pick winners or losers. And if we could help our friends in China change their definition of industrial policy to that definition, the impact to American business would be staggering. The other thing I think the administration has to get right in order for the Asia rebalancing to be credible is we have to complete TPP. If we're not successful in completing this important agreement, we're going to have missed an enormous opportunity. And then to echo what Amy was very correctly pointing out, it is essential that we get our current FTA partners to fully and faithfully honor their agreements. And Amy and I will not rest until that's done. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of Korean government officials here, so, but you can all tell them when you see them. And regarding TPP, I think we're really on a good track. And on the China policy, I think a lot depends on who is appointed to replace Kirk Campbell. Hopefully that will be somebody who's well-versed in China policy, but who also is well-versed in Asia and recognizes the value of coming out here regularly. I think Secretary Clinton and Kirk Campbell just did an amazing job, and they have some very big shoes to fill. And the last point I wanted to make is to our friends in Congress, that trade matters, and we really need members of Congress to talk to their constituents about the importance of trade. I think we do have a pro-trade Congress right now. We do need to get trade promotion authority and trade adjustment assistance done, and then TPP as quickly as we can. And as a country and as a government, we have to better communicate internationally. We really have to phrase the conversation to our Asia or with our Asian partners to help them see the value of our proposals and draw clear references as to why it's in their local national interest to do whatever we're asking. Thanks very much.
Tammy, thank you very much. Those are terrific takeaways. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Bill Bishop, who's going to do takeaways from the excellent panel that we had on aging society and health. Thank you, Bill.
Well, this is a tough act to follow, these two very erudite, concise summaries of what happened. The healthcare panel, of course, we tried to couch our discussion of healthcare around aging, and we discussed what is happening in Asia, of course, with Japan being the leader in Asia in aging, and that the developed countries of Asia and the rest of the world following Japan lagging around 10 to 15 years, and then you have the next group of countries or economies out here lagging around 20 to 30 years. China's roughly 25. What that meant is that Japan is the first super age society, and we discussed, Dr. Yi, former Minister of Health, also discussed that Taiwan, Korea were behind around 10, 15 years, and their challenge was how to pay for the increasingly large population of elderly and the smaller population of those who are helping to pay the medical insurance. So their national health care system now is trying to confront, what do you do? Do you cover the mountain or do you cover the ocean? The mountain, to him, were the high-tech solutions, the ocean being the more general, necessary primary care. And of course, they would like to cover that and then with the high-tech solutions, possibly go for some kind of co-insurance or where the patient would cover it entirely. Alok covered the innovation to address the elderly patients, that innovations need to be able to be adapted to a more elderly patient, something that is easy to use, has less necessary to interface, and this is an area where the United States has a comparative and competitive advantage in most of these. Indeed, what was pointed out several times was the advantage that U.S. companies do have in leadership in drugs, diagnostics, and medical devices. There is going to be a shift towards M-Health solutions, and this will be an area which is also growing, another area where the United States has leadership. I pointed out in my presentation that the industrial policies of Japan, which are driving the new growth strategy under the Abe administration, and actually it's a continuation of a 5-year plan which was introduced prior to this December election that elected the new Abe administration. But now it's turbocharged by Abe. They believe that they can have an industrial policy that does indeed pick the winners. This will be a question as to whether or not this is all going to play out. But this is where U.S. industry needs to engage. How we engage, we discussed in the Q&A, is regulatory harmonization. This is a centerpiece for Japan. They want regulatory harmonization to commercialize their goods. That's why they've now entered TPP. But regulatory harmonization in TPP, in APEC, should be the mantra that we push very hard. Mutual recognition as we move forward. This would allow the innovations that we have and where we have a competitive and comparative advantage flow into the region to address the needs of an ever-growing aging population. But it's not only the aging population. We talked about how you address, you saw in economies like the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia. They have a much younger population, and they're trying to create a national healthcare system. In these systems, they need to figure out a way to provide those initial engagements and primary care engagements, so screening programs, infection control programs. We have these ongoing inside of APEC. They should also address the need to better allocate scarce resources and not to otherwise squander scarce resources in treating, let's say, otherwise preventable infections. Dr. Wang talked about the tailor-made medicine, the new frontiers in this area, the importance of health records. One of the problems out here is there isn't a common platform for the storage of health records. Much of these electronic records, we have the same problem in the United States, quite frankly. But as we start moving towards this, I think there are technologies and solutions that would provide an opportunity for the capture and storage of medical records. And so, in sum, it is a shift to prevention, infection control, and a way to better allocate scarce resources, and this give an advantage to U.S. industry or to industries in general to compete on an even playing field would be regulatory harmonization. Thank you.
Thank you.